Look at this fucking sky. Holy shit. Can I zoom in on it? Can I do that? No, I can't. Look at the sky. That's not even doing it justice. Thought about pulling a reading. I might pull a reading. I don't know. I kind of just feel like sitting here talking to myself. I do that a lot. And it's a good time. It's a good time for me. I don't know if it's a good time for anyone else. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it just, this is self-expression. Of course, there is a desire for any of this to be meaningful to someone else. Absolutely, that's a desire. I'm not going to pretend that it isn't. But it's selfish. It is incredibly selfish. And I'm quite content with it being that way. I believe that we should all selfishly please ourselves as we desire to. Why give that power or responsibility to anybody else? Of course, allowing pleasure to be delivered as well, but not needing it to come from any place else. We can be wholly self-satisfied, self-sustained, self-pleasing. That's pretty cool. It's a lot of feelings, certainly, and great pleasure is experienced in the deliberate allowing of feeling. And that is liberating. It's just this next level of bring it all on. Bring on all of the feelings. Let me feel all the feelings now that I'm giving myself full permission to take satisfaction in that. I just was missing that one little piece of actually giving myself explicit conscious permission to enjoy it. To derive pleasure from feeling. To just bask in the deliciousness of feeling anything. It's cool. And I don't know, to call it a revelation sounds strong. It's not a revelation, just an increased understanding, perhaps, of the role that feminine energy plays and is playing in particular right now in the ascension of consciousness, but specifically in the healing of masculine trauma. Masculine energy doesn't know how to heal trauma. It doesn't understand. It doesn't get it. Because it is the mental energy. And it thinks that you think your way through everything. That's not how you heal trauma. Feminine energy understands intuitively because it's intuitive, because it's emotional and emotionally based. It gets it. It goes, oh yeah, I feel emotional trauma. I feel trauma. Doesn't matter if you call it psychological. What was wounded was an emotional part of you. I feel emotional trauma. And obviously, the way to heal that is to feel it. What happened there, what trauma was, and this is just me speaking out of my ass. Okay. I'm not credentialed in anything. I'm not certified in anything. From my experience and understanding, trauma essentially is, well, it's emotional in nature. You experience something that created a strong emotional reaction, and at the time of the experience, the mind shut it down. It shut down that emotion. It was so intense, it was so overwhelming that the mind said, well, nope, we can't do that right now. We're not doing that right now. It was a sort of alternative survival mechanism that kicked in, right? And said, turn that off. We're going to deal with this other thing. Nothing went wrong. But the intention there is to then return to that emotion at a later point and let it be felt. To let that emotion, that strong, visceral, sensational reaction be re-evoked, return to the memory of that experience, deliberately evoke that emotion and feel it all the way. Feel it fully, not just, we do this thing where we taste it a little bit and go, ah, ouchie, ah, yeah, that still hurts. And then it stays there. And we keep doing that because we never actually get it to budge. We never actually move it when we're just dipping the toe in, but then the mind immediately has that same reaction and goes, whoa, no, overwhelming, shut it down again, systems power down, all of that. What we need to do and what feminine energy understands, how do we move that emotion, how do we set that energy free, is we go all the way into it. We go into the memory, whatever it is, we evoke the emotion, and when we see the mind trying to stop it and go, whoa, 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 let's go somewhere else, somewhere that doesn't even really distract us from the emotion, it just kind of numbs it a little bit, it just sort of sedates it, it keeps it there. We still feel this sort of sickly, anxious sensation, and we know we got to go all the way in. You got to go into it. You got to go all the way into whatever that is, that pain, that grief, that sorrow, that heartache, that feeling of rejection or abandonment or betrayal or violation, whatever it was, you got to feel into it. You got to feel into it all the way, and you got to let that emotion be felt, and then you are in your state of deliberate allowance. You're saying, I'm just feeling. I am just feeling this. You're no longer judging it. As long as you are aware, you are allowing. When you are maintaining full awareness and presence, allowance, non-restriction, non-attachment, non-resistance, that's a part of pure awareness. And that's what feminine energy understands intuitively. It says, I just got to feel this. I'm not saying why. I'm not trying to make it do anything. I feel the urge, the desire, I feel the desire to feel this fully. I know that feels good. There's something that feels good about going all the way into this, going deep into this emotion and letting it just splay out as wide and as far as it wants to go, letting it happen, letting this process take over. I'm not guiding it, I'm not controlling it, I'm just allowing it to be. That's how diving into grief alleviates grief. You're no longer trying to control that emotion or whatever it is. You're no longer trying to control it, trying to repress it or suppress it or keep it out of sight. You go all the way into it, you set it free, you stop holding on to it, you stop trying to drag it one way or the other. You witness it with awareness. You feel it fully. You feel the liberation and the power of that surrender, the joy, the peace of that surrender, even as this torrential downpour is storming through you. This tidal wave is ripping across you, feeling like it's bursting out of your chest. You can be sobbing, snot running down your face, and going, yes, this is it. This feels good. This screaming into the void. This is what I want. And it does feel good. And it does set it free. And masculine energy does not understand that. It doesn't get it. It doesn't understand how to heal trauma, and it doesn't even believe at this point. At this point, it's developed this false belief that you can't really heal it, that you just cope with it. That's the best you can get, is just coping with it. Yeah, some shitty stuff happened to you. You just got to deal with it now. You just got to deal with sad and anxious, and you have this whatever reaction that's conditioned within you, and you just deal with it. You just deal with it now. That's it. It doesn't understand that you are capable of releasing that conditioning. You are capable. You've got this, what could be called, what would traditionally perhaps be called disordered way of thinking, a dysfunctional reaction because of something that happened that conditioned you into this. Okay. It's possible to release that. That dysfunction is the result of unhealed trauma. That unhealed trauma is the result of unfelt emotion. This is my personal experience. This is the way that I have personally experienced it. I am not projecting this necessarily upon anyone else, but this has been my experience as one who was diagnosed with severe obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, anxiety, struggled with a lot of things, viciously codependent, low non-existent self-worth, shy, painfully shy, crippling social anxiety, all of these things. Diagnosed repeatedly by multiple certified clinicians on all kinds of medication for years and years and years. Years and years and years in and out of therapy. All of that stuff. Now, I have the benefit of a severe head trauma. That's a significant advantage that I had, and I don't necessarily recommend that to anybody, but it's the way it worked, and it was a gift from myself to myself for that to take place, because it helped me shake loose. It helped me step into this expanded awareness, this perspective of, oh yeah, I don't need all that stuff. I actually can do this differently. I can actually think differently. And it starts with just observing what's going on, observing the patterns of the mind, and letting myself feel everything. I don't understand it. I don't have to understand it. I'm just here. I'm just listening. I'm just paying attention. I'm not letting it drive me one way or another. I'm just sitting in it, sitting with it, feeling it. I started to feel such intense pain after the end of my long-term relationship, 10 years, broken up with, just dropped into a pit, essentially. I was still in this place where I was just tasting emotion, you know? I was going, I don't know. I'm comfortable with the neutrality, with kind of just coasting along. Little baby ups and downs, that felt safe, you know? It felt safe. And then I got broken up with, and all of the seatbelts got ripped off, and I just plunged into a grief that I was not aware I was capable of. I wasn't aware it existed. Now at this point I also have the understanding that there is a collective level of grief, and that is a big part of what I was tapping into, but I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could go that deep. I didn't know I could feel that much. Holy shit. And I was still resistant to it. There was this part of me ingrained, conditioned, saying, no, too much, scary, too much emotion, so much emotion equal bad. So much emotion is bad thing. That was just programmed in there. And so I was fighting it. I was unable to stop it, still descending into these depths. And there was that part of me that really did relish in it. That's what I discovered. There was the part that was fighting it and going, whoa, no, scary, bad, danger, Will Robinson, back it up. And then the other part of me that said, no, this is what we do. This is where we go. We go deeper. We go into this. We go all the way in. We just keep going. There's not a bottom. We just keep going through. And I wasn't aware enough at the time to recognize that it was pleasing, that it was really truly satisfying. I got the tastes of it, but I wasn't letting myself feel the full pleasure and empowerment of it. And maybe you would call that, I don't know, the dark feminine shadow. I don't know. Maybe just straight up feminine, because It's all the same thing, right? There really is no difference. There's no separation. This is all the same self. The whole point is we are integrating the whole self. Shadow, light, whatever. We're the same. If you're a light worker, you are a shadow worker. And it has been immensely satisfying to really embrace. I thought I was embracing shadow. The past couple of days, it's getting a little dark. Past couple of days has shown me that I was just scratching the surface. I was just dipping the toe in saying, yes, you are welcome. Welcome to my perfectly set table where all is placid and all is well. And every so often I would let myself go into the deep emotion, but there was still that part of my brain that was judging it, that was saying, you messed up somehow. If you're feeling this much, if you're crying like this, if you're feeling this pain, you did something wrong. You messed up. You took a wrong turn. You're not meditated enough. You're not spiritual. You're not enlightened enough. That was all the mind. That was all conditioned programming, ego, masculine energy, afraid of what the feminine energy knew and knows, which is, oh, there is so much more. We are so much more powerful than we even realize, than we let ourselves be. There is so much pleasure to be derived from everything, specifically from the experience of feeling. That's what feminine knows, the joy of feeling, of allowing herself to feel and feel deeply, feel without limit, feel yet more and more and more. Why do you think it is that the female body is capable of multiple orgasms, multiple different kinds of orgasms in a row, consecutively? It's feminine energy that understands there's not an end to this. There is only more. You can get more and more pleasure if you are open and willing to receive it. And yes, it's overwhelming. And that's what pushes you to expand. That's the overwhelming sensation is what drives the surrender. The surrender is what gives the pleasure. The more you surrender to, the more better you feel. The more you're allowing in, the more you allow in, the more there is to surrender to. You see that this is an endless cycle, but it's an endless cycle of allowance, of reception, of essentially pleasure. Because the act of surrender, the act of allowing, is pleasurable. So then the feminine knows, this is what I want. This is what I want. What I want is to feel good. This feels good. This is my desire. Now I am deliberately allowing and acknowledging my desire, not just to surrender, but what it is I'm surrendering to. Overwhelm. I am surrendering to intensity. That point where it feels like I'm going to break and I go, I give up. I give up. Bring it on. Oh, I got chills. She knows not just the power, but the delicious pleasure of that overpowered state and of deliberately surrendering into it, of leaning into it. And that is a bottomless well of sensation, all of which can be taken pleasure in, can be satisfying. It's a lot. And then, talk about healing. It's so empowering. It's not like fixed boo-boo. It's like, oh my God, this is the boo-boo was the doorway to everything I wanted. The thing I thought was pain was the passageway to pleasure. Now I see And I realized directly by this experience that nothing can harm me. Nothing can harm me. I am fully capable of finding the way to focus myself into pleasure from pain. And now there is no pain. Not the way that it used to be. Yeah, there's still pain. But if I'm deriving pleasure from the experience, it's not painful. I can make anything work for me. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what comes. It doesn't matter what feeling is evoked. If I can focus on the satisfaction of feeling the feeling, I can feel good. I mean good. I mean pleased, satisfied, unconditionally. Like really, really. And that is fucking cool. And that is what the feminine is here to teach, to demonstrate to the masculine. Your pain is a portal to power, to pleasure, to peace, certainly. But it's not a thing you need to erase. It is not a thing you need to run from. You're doing it all backwards. Go into it. That's where the juice is. That's where everything you're looking for is. You think you're unhealed and you'll never be healed, or you got to do all this work. All you got to do is feel. Give up trying. Give up trying to cope with. Stop trying to cope with. Stop trying to manage. Stop trying to work out and through and erase and whatever. No, go into it. Embrace it fully. Draw it in. Give yourself permission and feel how good that feels, and then give yourself permission to feel good, to experience that pleasure. Oh, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. But this soulmate cycle specifically is full of runners who have diagnoses, and that is not a judgment. As I had just said, I carry many of these diagnoses. I've lived most of my life with them, medicated, again, all of this other stuff. I get it. But that's what feminine energy is here to do, is to trigger masculine into realizing it doesn't have to be this way. I don't have to be this way. I can live differently. I can approach life, the life experience, quite differently. And there is so much pleasure waiting for me if I give myself permission to let it in. And all that starts with giving the permission to feel overwhelming emotion, to feel this sensation so strong that you're shaking, that you think you can't take it, and you let yourself feel it anyway, and you just let it happen, and you say, I don't know what's going to happen. I might die. I might just expire on the spot. This might be too much for me, for my body, but I'm going to feel it anyway. I'm going to feel it. I'm going through with it. I'm seeing what's on the other side of this, the other side of the void that feels terrifying, feels like you can't do it, feels like death, like you're not gonna make it there, feels like your brain is exploding, and you just let it happen. You just lean back and let it rip through you, and you feel so free. Excuse me, that came out of nowhere. It was thinking of me. Anyway, just some fucking rambling, because that's what I do. That's just what I do. I ramble because it's satisfying. It feels good to me. And I'm giving myself conscious, deliberate permission to do what feels good for no reason other than it feels good in this moment. This is not to accomplish anything. This is not to transmit some message. This is not to change somebody's whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If people hate this, if it's full of vitriolic insults, it doesn't matter. Do what feels good to you. Be absolutely deliciously selfish. You deserve that. You deserve that. You deserve to take pleasure in everything here. To take pleasure in existing. To take pleasure in feeling. Anything that feels good, truly, embrace it consciously. Approach it and invite it consciously. Bring awareness to it, awareness of how good it feels, and then give yourself that conscious, deliberate permission to feel good, to feel as good as you can feel. Let it expand. Don't set any limits. Put no boundaries on your pleasure. Say, this feels good, and I'm going to let it feel as good as it can. I'm going to juice it up. I'm going to amp it. I'm going to roll around in this and just see what it does. See how it feels. And all the while, I'm just basking in the feeling of feeling. And it's wholly within my power, my control. Nothing touches this. Unconditional, self-satisfied, self-sustained. It's a good feeling. And this is what the feminine is here to help the masculine unlock. And that starts with triggering. It starts with a whole mess of triggering. Because that's how you get anything to release that's been balled up so tight for so long, right? It's a trigger point. Just like a muscle. You poke it. And just like a trigger point, it fucking hurts. It hurts until it doesn't. Until it feels really good. And then you're going, ha 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 ha. Okay, I get it. Press another one. Now I'm looking forward to it. Now that pain is kind of tasty. Now there's something else there that I like. That's enough. I'm satisfied in myself. Feminine knows how to get it done. She knows how to release and experience pleasure of that. And that is what she is here to teach the masculine. We're coming for you. Get ready to feel all the feelings and get ready to feel really good.